Okay, in this video I'm going to talk about how to use Finale, which is a software that allows us to notate music in the computer. You'll need to know this for the notation assignment, which forms part of the theory cluster. So let's get started. So Finale, if it's not down here in your list of programs, if it is down here, it'll look like this with the F. You can, of course, search for Finale, F-I-N-A-L-E, and it'll come up. But I have it down here, so we click on that. Okay, once that comes up, hopefully soon, we always just click on Default Document. Okay, so that's what you're going to want there, Default Document, and it'll bring up a page like this. So I'll talk about some of the windows that you see here that I'm just moving around. So up here, they call them, I believe they call them palettes, which is a bit unusual, but that's just how it is. So this thing here is called the main tool palette, and you'll use that quite a bit. This one here is the where we put the notes in. We can choose what type of notes we want and things like that. We're not going to use these ones here very much. These will be your main ones here. If these ever disappear and do not appear, and you can't find them, go to Window and you'll find them there. Main tool palette, and that's called the simple entry palette, this one here. Okay, they're the first two ones there. Okay, so if they're ever not there for some reason, that's where to go. For those who are not used to Macs, what you have just noticed happen, you just notice that they've disappeared, but they actually haven't. This is, if you've never used Macs before, this is a bit of an unusual Mac or Apple thing where you can, it appears as though Finale is open, but we're actually in what's called Finder. So if you just click back on this document here, we're now back in Finale. It's a bit of a weird Mac Apple thing if you're not used to Apples or Macs. So yeah, just be aware of that. If you accidentally click over here, everything will disappear because you've actually gone to another program. You can, of course, also use on the keyboard Command tab. That will let you go between programs. Okay, so that's Finder. Finder is kind of like My Documents if you're used to a PC, and this is Finale. That's Command tab. Okay, so those are the two. I'm even actually going to get rid of these ones here that we don't really need. I'm going to make this screen a little larger, and then we'll talk about how to get this all happening. Another handy shortcut is Command 2, which will make it a lot larger. So a little bit easier. Command 1 is that view there, which I think it's like 100% or something. But if you go Command 2, it zooms right in and gives you a bit more. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do, I'm actually going to do the first task A on the notation assignment, which is a C major scale using a treble clef in 4/4 and using crotchets or quarter notes. Now, when we do theory, we'll talk about this. In Australia, and certainly in this class, I tend to use crotchets, semi-breves, minims, that kind of thing, quavers mainly, but in America they tend to call them quarter notes, whole notes, half notes, etc. Now with this being an American program, they call them half notes. They use that terminology. So if you hover your mouse over the top, it'll actually give you the name of it. Okay, so I'll just go through them briefly. So that's what we would call, here in Australia, we tend to mostly call them a semi-breve. They call it a whole note. That's worth 4 beats. This one is a half note. We call that a minim. I'll refer to it mainly as a minim, and that's worth 2 beats. We have a quarter note. I'll refer to that as a crotchet, and it's worth 1 beat. That is what they call an eighth note. I'll refer to that as a quaver, and it's worth half a beat. Don't worry about that too much if you don't understand, but I just thought I'd mention that. So I'm going to do the first task A. So if we need to do it in crotchets. This is a crotchet here. We just click on that crotchet, and we simply just put the notes in. So we're going to start on middle C. Okay, middle C is this one down here with a line through it. You'll notice here that it appears as though there's a note already in there. That's just a bit of a funky thing with this program. Sometimes it'll do that. And you'll notice when I put the actual note in, it'll disappear and it'll be a darker note. So don't be too concerned by that weird line and stuff. So when I put the note in, it disappears. Okay, so here we go. I put in the first note, middle C. And when we're doing a scale, we make sure you do not skip any notes. So if your first note is on a line like that, your second note is going to be in a space like that. And you'll notice that note there is now black. Okay, so line, space, etc. Okay, I'm just putting this in. Let's say we make a mistake. Let's say we do that note, which is not correct. There are a few things you can do. You can use the arrow up and down key on the keyboard, the typing keyboard, and you can move that around. Or you can push undo. Undo on a Mac is Command Z. So it's going to undo all those moves that I did, but it'll eventually undo it so that it takes the note away. Wow, I did it a few times, there we go. So that's very helpful, especially if you accidentally delete everything, Command Z, and that works across any program in Logic, Word, anything like that. Command Z is undo. Okay, so I'm going to continue, line, space, so the next one's going to be a space. And how many notes do we go for? Well, we want to do 1 octave, so most scales, and certainly all of these scales that we'll be doing in this particular assignment, have 8 notes. So we need to go up for 8 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that is C major. Okay, no sharps or flats. It has a treble clef. We're in 4/4, and we've gone from C to C. Okay. As I said, make sure you go line, space. You don't want to skip any notes, otherwise you'll end up on the wrong note at the top. So this is what we call ascending, so we're going up. We now need to descend. Do not repeat the top note, okay? We do not want to put in another C, so I'm going to Command Z and undo that. We go straight back down, so here we go. Once again, not skipping any, okay, we don't want to go down here or back up. Okay, you must hit every single line and space until we get down to the first note. There it is. Okay, so that's the first task. I'll get you started on the next one, but let me just talk about a few things that you might need to know as well for the other ones, because this one's fairly simple, C major. So one thing you're going to need to know how to do is to change key signature. Okay, I don't actually have the sheet in front of me while I'm doing this video, but some of the scales will be in different keys. I can't remember actually what task B is, but let's pretend that we're going to do the scale which is G major. Okay, so we need to change key signature for G major. For that, we need to go to the key signature tool. Now the key signature tool is what I call the 6th tool, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's just those 2 flats. There it is, key signature tool. We click on that, and what you do is right click in the middle of the bar. So don't right click here, don't right click up here. Right in the middle of the bar, right click on your mouse. Just a little word of warning, if you're only just turned on your computer and logged in for the first time, I believe the default settings of this particular computer is to not have a right click. You may have, if your right click doesn't work, you may have to go into the computer system preferences and change it in the mouse settings. If you're not sure about that, I can help you out with that. But let's keep moving. So we right click, and you don't even need to know what the key signature is. Luckily, they're all just here, and you can just choose what key it is. So we go to G major, and it knows what key that is, and it puts in the key signature for G major. So, and you'll notice it moved all the bars around. It'll do that sometimes, don't worry about that. Okay, as I said, I don't have the sheet in front of me, but let's say G major is minims or something. So then I will have to put in G major. Okay, we're going to start on G, obviously, for that one. So that's G, every, good, G for good, etc. Okay, I'm not going to continue on. You can do that when you come to do it. So I just want to talk about a few other things. In some point, one of them has to be in 3/4. So you're going to need to change time signature as well as key signature. So let's change key signature again, just for the fun of it. We go to the key signature tool. Let's say we we do one in a different key. So once again, I right click in the middle of the bar, okay? If you right click over here, sometimes it won't work. You want to right click in the middle of the bar. Let's go to F major. That's another one of the keys that we need to do. And let's change time signature. Okay, we go to the 7th tool, which is the time signature 4/4. Once again, right click in the middle of the bar, and you can just simply choose, I think it's 3/4. And you'll notice once again, it's moved the bars around. I'll talk in a minute about how to move the bars back where they were, but it's changed. So we've changed key signature, we've changed time signature. When you're in 3/4, I believe you need to use half notes, or what I call dotted minims. So for a dotted minim, you need to click on the minim note and the dot, and it'll give you that. And when you're in 3/4 and you're using a dotted minim, it'll just be one note per bar. So sometimes it'll be, that's not very good, is it? I just put random notes in there. If I'm actually doing F major, once again, I would go space line, etc. Each scale, depending on what note you use, is going to have a different number of notes in a bar. Okay, so some scales will be crotchets, which are going to have 4 notes in the bar. Some will be minims, which are 2 notes to the bar, especially if we're still in 4/4. If we're in 3/4 and we're using dotted minims, it's going to be 1 note per bar. If we're in 4/4 and we're using semi-breves, it's going to be 1 note to the bar. Okay, so there's a few little tips there. One thing you will definitely need to do, and everyone asks me how to do this, how do I get more bars? We're going to definitely need more bars. Okay, for that one, we go to the 5th tool, which is, I think it's called the measure tool, yep. And once again, we right click in the middle of the last bar this time, and we go down to add measures. In America, they call them measures. Here in Australia, and certainly in this course, I call them bars, but they call them measures. So we want to go to add measures, and you can just add 30 measures, doesn't matter. Just add a heap. And there you go, it's added a heap of measures there. Great. So the next thing I'd like to show you, which I mentioned before, is moving around the bars. As I said, when you do different things and put notes in, sometimes Finale will just move bars randomly, seemingly, and you want to try and move them back. And I'll show you how you can do that. Because when you hand in the notation assignment, it would be really great if you could just have each scale on one line, okay? So to do that, we use the first tool, which is, what is it called? It's called the selection tool. So I've actually got an extra bar here, so I can delete that. So I click in the middle of the bar once again, and I click on delete on the keyboard, and I can delete that bar. I don't need that bar. And you might have some bars you need to delete. Now, to move bars around and to get each particular task on a new line, we use the arrow keys. We highlight bars and use arrow keys. So I'll show you what I mean. I click on this first bar of this G major scale, and I want that to start on the next line. So all I do, I've highlighted it, and I click the down arrow on the typing keyboard, and it'll push it down to the next bar. Once again, I can do that here. I can push that down to the next bar. I can delete bars if I need to. Okay, I can just push the delete. Things like that. You're not going to need to do this, but you can go the opposite way, right? You can go arrow up, and it will put that bar on the next line. I won't want that. So some lines are going to have lots of bars in them if you have one scale on each bar. Okay, before I finish this video, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I need to talk about. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, you can listen to the scales. If I go back to that playback controls, it does things like that. You can play it. But they're the main things that you're going to need to know. And I might just summarize those before I finish the video. So the main one is that'll get you started is this simple entry. Okay, you can put all your notes in using that, selecting the different notes. You will have to change key. That's where we use the 6th tool, the key signature tool, and you right click in the bar. Let's change key here. You might go to E minor. okay? And you don't even need to know the key signature. So there's that one, and then you'll need the time signature tool to change time signature. Once again, right-click in the bar. Let's change it back to 4/4. And you'll need the measures bar to add measures. And you can right-click on a bar and add measures. I call them bars, but this program will call them measures. Regularly save your work. Okay, the shortcut for save on a Mac is Command S, and it'll ask if you want more options. If you get this little screen and you want more options, click on this little thing and it'll give you more options of where you want to save it, and you can call it what you want and save it. I won't save this particular one. So yes, save regularly is my hint. Cool. All right, that's how to get started in Finale.